How to install a NdFeB magnet that can freely cut off its magnetic force? Good question. Very simple. Let's try several methods that may cut off the magnetic force of the magnet. This is a thumb-sized NdFeB magnet. We put a piece of magnetic paper on this magnet. You can see where it magnetically condenses if you use a non-magnetic sheet of metal to block the magnet. Then tested with magnetic paper, it was obvious that the non-metal plate could not block the magnetic force of the magnet. It seems that the magnetic force has not been affected, so what if the non-magnetic metal is replaced with a steel plate? The visual analysis has little impact. Through the magnetic paper can still see the location of the magnetic force, and then we replace the plate with a 20 mm thick steel plate, and then use magnetic paper to measure. You will be surprised. Its magnetic force disappeared, but in fact did not disappear, but diffused into the steel plate, because the volume of the steel plate is far superior to the small magnet, so its magnetic strength will be leaned against the other side of the steel plate, so that the existence of magnetic force cannot be felt if we replace the small magnet with a fist-sized magnet and adsorb it to the steel plate. Then the magnetic force on the steel plate will become very large, which means that it will not work to use a large and bulky steel plate to block the magnetic force. But there is another method that is very effective, that is, to use a fire gun to heat the magnetic force. When it is heated to 300 degrees, the magnetic force will disappear, but the magnetic force will really disappear after it disappears, after cooling. It is obvious that this is still not a free switching of magnetic force. Don't worry, and there is one last trick. We bought a switch magnetic base from the market. It is quite expensive and magical, because it is a very ordinary permanent magnet, which can adsorb magnetic metal, and the magic is that it only needs to be frozen at 180 degrees, and then it can immediately lose its magnetic force. Note that there is no battery installed inside this magnetic base. Electromagnet when it opens its magnetic force. The adsorption ability is still quite strong. It can adsorb metal 3 times heavier than itself. When the magnetic force is turned off, his magnetic force cannot even suck up a small book nail. As for the working principle is beyond your imagination. Here are 2 identical small magnets. The marked end is the S-class. They are magnetically attached to either end. Then, even if it is separated by a hard emperor, it can be sucked on the steel meter. But when one of the small magnets is reversed and merged together, you will magically find that its magnetic force has disappeared so inexplicably, and it really becomes a little magnetic, not when we turn the magnet upside down. The magnetism was restored again. The reason is that when 2 magnets are on the same pole plane, they are equivalent to a magnet. The direction of the magnetic field is naturally the same, and then when 2 magnets with different polarities merge together, then its magnetic field direction is opposite, which is equivalent to a collision of magnetic forces in both directions. As a result, the magnetic force cancels each other out, resulting in the fact that the outside of the magnet is not magnetic. This is the same water pipe with 2 opposite directions flowing in. When the force on both sides is the same, it will
applied to motors, toys, magnetic suction, wireless charging, UAV.